Hello, here we are at the American Overseas Schools Historical Society office in Wichita, Kansas. Today is October 5, 2004. My name is Linda Hebert Sekiguchi. Behind the camera is Bruce E. Mitchner. And we have with us here
Myrna Margraf.
Myrna Margraf. I'm sorry, Myrna. I was thinking of Margraf over and over, and then I forgot Myrna. So Myrna Margraf is here with us today, and Myrna has been a teacher with American Overseas Schools, with Department of Defense schools in Puerto Rico and Japan and Germany. So she will be sharing with us about that. But first, Myrna, we'd like to have you tell us a bit about your background, where you were born, and things that happened to you prior to getting into Department of Defense schools.
Okay, I was born in Blue Springs, Nebraska, and lived there a short time, and then we moved to Kansas, way over on the eastern side in Chanute and Neodesha, in that area where I lived until I was in the 4th grade, and then we moved to Wichita when my dad got into the aircraft industry here in Wichita. So I was raised basically in Wichita, and I've been here up until the time I graduated from high school, which was East High here in Wichita, Kansas. And then I went on to college in Searcy, Arkansas, which is a church-related school. And it was there that I learned about the overseas program from a professor that I had there. I wanted to go teach in Hawaii. Didn't everyone? And because it was sort of a brand new state and all of that. And he said, don't be silly, nobody's going to get a job there, but if you go to Puerto Rico, which is the same thing, beach life, you'll be going. So that's how I actually got into beginning this from my college.
And Puerto Rico was with Department of Defense schools now, or was that?
When I started, it was under Health, Education, and Welfare. Later, they converted it and counted it as time with Dodge schools, and so I got to count those 4 years with the Dodge system.
So how did you make the connection to the Health, Education, Welfare schools?
The professor at college had been a part of it and said that it would be much easier to go there than to go to Hawaii. So 2 of us applied. That he even made arrangements for someone to come and interview at the college, and we did. And 2 of us did, and 2 of us were accepted. We went together as roommates.
Wow!
The first year in Ramey Air Base, Puerto Rico.
Very good. All right. So you started out your overseas career in Puerto Rico. How long were you there?
4 years. 4 very nice, wonderful, comfortable, tropical years. I enjoyed it very much.
Well, can you tell us a bit about your experiences there? What grade levels did you teach? What kind of interaction did you have with the local community? And how was the school situation for you?
There were 2 huge elementary schools on Ramey Air Base, and I taught at the Hook Road Elementary School. And I don't remember how many teachers there were, but it seems to me like we had about 11 first grades maybe.
Wow.
And I taught first grade. So most all of my experience has been first grade.
Now, about how many students in the classroom?
Basically, at that time, it was very normal, 25 to 30 ranging children.
That was large. Wow. And so how was you had a regular stateside curriculum with your students and all?
Yes. Very similar to anywhere in the United States, I would guess. I never taught in the United States because I went directly to Puerto Rico from college.
You didn't have to have the 2 years of previous experience.
Well, you were supposed to, but they couldn't get enough teachers that year, and there were 13 of us in Ramey that were brand new teachers, first time.
Wow. Okay, so did you have any opportunity in Puerto Rico to have interaction with the local community?
I must admit that I was not terribly interested in that at the time. We were on this beautiful base, and we had a beach right outside where I lived.
Oh, wow.
And we did a lot of traveling throughout Puerto Rico. We went to many different places and stayed many times in San Juan. But as far as actually making friendships and interacting much with the people, I did not in Puerto Rico. We did a lot of eating.
Oh, yes.
In the places off base, and great rice and beans and the local food.
Now, I think on the table here with your display of your many, some of your treasures, you had something with Puerto Rico you might want to share.
Along with what I just said about not interacting, I did very little buying in Puerto Rico. It just wasn't important to me. I was young. I was having a good time on the beach, and that was about it. But I did traveled all over through the islands, and this was one thing that I do have from that, which has little charms from every little different island that I went to, and different things that go with the Caribbean.
So what sorts of things are on there, for example?
Oh, I have a thing of bananas, a palm tree. We have little wooden shoes from St. Martin's, a pineapple. Let's see what else we have here. A steel drum, kind of things like that from that area.
Okay.
And the only other thing that I brought along, which is not from Puerto Rico, but from Haiti. We were in Haiti, and this was very typical of some of the things that we saw in Haiti, bought on the street.
Wonderful. Okay, so you got to a number of the Caribbean islands while you were there.
Oh, yes, and we went often to St. Thomas because it was just a shopper's paradise. That's where I bought sterling silver, and I bought English china.
Oh, wow.
I have a lot of different things. It was a shopper's paradise as well as being on the beach again.
For sure. Fun. So then how did you make the transition from Puerto Rico to Japan?
Well, after I'd been there 4 years, some of us decided that it was time to move on, so we just filled out the transfer papers and asked to go. And the year before, I had tried to go to Iceland. Didn't get that. Thank goodness. Okay, then the next year I tried to go to Japan and was accepted.
Now you were able to transfer from an HEW school to a DOD school?
You know, I'm not absolutely sure if that was an exact transfer. I probably just applied to Dodds and went there, because I know that I took $1,000 cut in pay to go from that to Dodds.
Is that right? Wow, interesting. But you thought it was worth it?
Well, I did.
Okay.
However, when I ended up on that southern island of Japan, a million miles from civilization, I wasn't sure. But we did so much traveling. It was wonderful.
Okay, so in Japan, where did you end up being?
I started at Itazuki Air Base, which is on the southern island of Kyushu, I believe is how it's pronounced. Way away from Tokyo. And of course at that time it was even further away from Tokyo because of transportation and ways of getting around. So, but we started signing up for all kinds of tours, and we went to Hong Kong and for Christmas and on to
some
all
more
different
shopping.
places. Yes, yes. And while I was there, I was in Thailand and Cambodia and India, Singapore, as many places as we could go. That was the big thing, was the traveling.
And you taught first grade then in Japan?
Yes, I did.
And how many years were you there?
I was there only 1 year,
Uh-huh.
and then I moved up to Tokyo, to Tachikawa Air Base,
I see.
and was there for 1 year. So, and that was better in the way of being near things that were going on. We could go right from the base into Tokyo at any time on a train and see and do all kinds of things. So that was nice. And then, of course, we still traveled as much as possible.
Sure. Now, what would you say was your most unique traveling experience from Japan out into the Orient?
Unique.
What sticks out in your mind is
There were so many.
Uh-huh.
I loved being in India and at the Taj Mahal.
Mhm.
I also loved being in Cambodia, where we were not allowed to go for a while, and then they let us go in there.
Now, what year was this?
Oh my, I went to Japan in '67 and left '67, '69, that period of time.
Wow. And you were allowed
And
into Cambodia briefly?
For a brief, yeah,
time.
it was,
Now, did you go to Angkor Wat there, or?
Yes, yes. We were never allowed to go into China while I was there, so I am sorry about not doing that. That's one of the things that I feel regret about. But we saw so many things and did so many things that it was a great, great experience.
Now, how about interaction with the Japanese people and the culture in Japan? Were you able to bridge any of that with your students and or yourselves as teachers in the local community?
I would say that that was even harder in Japan, at that time at least, to interact with the Japanese people. It just didn't happen much. Not on base or off base. There was not a lot of that going on. Mostly it would be on the train, and we were approached over and over again by people who would come up and say, "May we practice our English with you?" And sometimes that was very fun, sometimes it became annoying, but that would be probably the biggest thing I would say about interacting with the Japanese people.
And then how about your students in school? Did you have the host nation teachers at that time, or not? Did they learn about the Japanese?
We did have
their
host
country?
nation, and they did work on their language and whatever with them. But it seems to me that at that time at least, the soldiers who had married Oriental wives, they pretty much came into the American community and did not do as much going back and forth into the, I may be wrong about that, but that's the way it seemed to me. There was not a lot of interaction with the teachers and the Japanese people.
Now, would you like to say anything about your school facilities or any of those sorts of things in Japan, either place?
They were very nice. We had very good, solid buildings, just like anywhere here in the United States. So I might have been lucky there, I don't know, but it was very great.
And you had first grade both places again. Not such a large school as Puerto Rico, huh?
Well, at Izuki, of course, I think there was just the one first grade
Oh,
class.
wow.
Now, Tachikawa was huge also.
Oh, great. So then you decided it was enough time in the Orient, and you...
Time to move on.
So what did you request? Where did you request going from there?
Well, I just asked for Germany.
Oh,
There was no, at that time, I don't believe you could say, I want to go to Nuremberg, or I want to go to Munich, or whatever. You just said, I want to go to Germany.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I forgot to ask you if you had any Japanese treasures.
Oh, my Japanese treasures.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
I do
before we
have
go
this is a antique tea set that I have from Japan. I've got this in an antique shop there. And,
Now, is that
let's see.
porcelain?
No, it is not. It's metal.
It's metal. Okay. Interesting. Wow. And what kind of metal would that be made out of? Any idea?
Oh, I have no idea.
And there are tea cups there.
No, this is where they stood the tea right there. There's no cup.
Okay, fun.
Kept the tea in there in the pot.
Okay.
This would be a typical tea cup that you would get in places and restaurants and things. I bought a set of those. I have no idea what it says. I had the whole outfit, of course, but these are the little gator shoes.
Oh, fun. Oh, fun. Did you ever wear them yourself?
Oh, I've had them on, and I wore them as a costume before, like Halloween and different things. I would have them on as a costume. Then let's see if oh, these are not actually from Japan, but these were bought in Thailand. They were very popular, the beggar beads.
Oh, yeah.
That everyone bought in Thailand.
And what kind of stones, any idea that those might
No.
be? Agate, I suppose.
Probably,
or
I have no
something.
idea.
Wonderful.
They weren't expensive, so they're nothing of great value. And course, the cultured pearls that every American had to have when they were in Japan. So I have a set of cultured pearls and the earrings that go with them.
Beautiful. Very nice. All right.
I think that's all I brought along from Japan.
All right, very good. And so Germany, you went off to Germany, and what town did you go to?
My first year, I was 8 years, but I went to Nuremberg.
Okay.
And that was also a beautiful experience. And also, there was a lot more interaction with the German people. They were much friendlier and eager to meet Americans and interact, so.
Wow, good. So you had first grade in Nuremberg for 8 years, and then where else in Germany?
I did actually move up to second grade for a year.
Oh, wow.
When I was there. And that was we tried that sort of as an experiment. 2 of us had first grade classes that were just dream classes. And we had this idea that we would just go with them to second grade and see if we could push them even further, keeping the same children and working with them. And so that was how I ended up in second grade for a year there.
Were they dreams in second grade?
Yes, they were.
Okay, good.
And we had great parents that supported it. And they were given the choice, though. If they did not want them to continue on with the same teacher, they could move.
Sure. Okay. Right, so you want to tell us about Nuremberg, and then we'll move on to your next location in Germany, in terms of what kind of cultural experiences you had, what the local area was like, and that type of thing.
Well, of course, Nuremberg is so terribly historic, and we saw as many things as we possibly could in the big stadium, which was very popular, where all of the Nazi soldiers and things marched and practiced, and that was a very interesting area. The castle and everything that was where the Nuremberg trials were held.
Wow.
And all of that was very, very interesting. And we tried to see and do everything possible everywhere we were. So.
Sure, of course. And now you said the interaction with the German people was more friendly at that point.
Yes, they accepted us very well. We would go into town, go to clubs and restaurants and meet with people. And as a matter of fact, to give you an idea how easy it was, I married a German.
Wow.
So, and then of course, maybe that was why it seemed a little easier, because I was in with his family and knew lots of people through him. And that was an easy way to get kind of into the German.
So how was it that you met your husband?
Oh, at a disco. We were young and downtown.
Fun. Now,
Yes.
did he speak English then?
Limited, very limited. My German was even more limited, but he had taken English in school, and it came back to him fairly easily, and he did all right with the language. And he totally changed to English, and I did very little German.
Now, what was he doing at the time in terms of his career?
He was in electronics, a lot with stereo. That's how he happened to be in the disco, as a matter of fact. He did the sound systems for many of the discotheque places in town.
I see. And he was from Nuremberg,
Yes.
and so his family was there as well.
Well, originally they had been from Augsburg, but he had lived there most of his life, and his parents had been through the war times, and his dad had served in the war, and so all of that was very interesting too.
For sure. Now, so you have lots of German relatives, I guess, through your husband.
Which I don't have much connection with anymore, because we divorced after 11 years, and then he is now dead. So I don't have an awful lot of contact. I do have write Christmas cards and things with his brothers and sisters.
Now, were you married in Germany? Or? So did you have family come over?
No, we just had very simple kind of little wedding there in Nuremberg with his family.
Oh, great.
My daughter was born in Nuremberg, in the American Nuremberg Hospital.
Wow. And you continued teaching?
Yes. Until she was 2 years old.
Uh-huh.
And then he kind of wanted to come live in the United States.
Mhm.
And I was real tired of working, and I thought if we came here, he would work and I would stay home. And
Great plans.
and it worked for a couple of years.
Sure.
But I was a little bored with staying home after 2 years, and then I went back to. We did come back here to live.
Uh-huh.
We left Nuremberg
Mhm.
and came back here to live. And after 2 years, I went back to teaching, so I taught here for 5 years.
Okay, and then you decided you wanted to go back to Germany.
Yes, I did.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. And so where did you go the second time?
The second time I applied,
Mhm.
and I had an interview, and I didn't get it.
Oh dear.
So the next year, I applied again.
Sure.
And I had an interview in Denver.
Uh-huh.
And that time, the guy said to me, if you'll put down that you'll go anywhere in the world, you'll
Mhm.
probably get right back in. I said, do it.
Okay.
And so he put that, but
Uh-huh.
you could still stipulate that you would choose to go to Germany if
Sure.
possible.
Mhm.
And I luckily got Germany.
Uh-huh.
However, it was way up north at Bad Hersfeld, which was just on the east-west German border.
Oh my.
And it was not necessarily my favorite place to be, but anyway, we could go still all over Germany and all over Europe and travel, so that was okay too.
It was a little isolated.
Very isolated
Small?
in the way.
Mhm. Like how many first grades did you have, for example?
I think there might have been 2 first grades. You know, there are always more younger ones
Mhm. Mhm.
with the military.
Uh-huh.
And then there was just one as you went up,
I see.
3 and 4 and 5 and so.
So you were right on the,
We had,
the East German border?
Within, I think, 13 miles or something, they said.
I see.
And we had no high school there. The high school kids had to be bused down to Fulda.
I
So
see.
it was very small and fairly remote, yes.
And so then you tried to get out of there.
2 years, yes. As soon as I could ask for something else, I asked to go back to Nuremberg.
Mhm.
But there were no openings there, and they
Mhm.
offered me Bamberg, which is
Mhm.
just, probably 30, 40 minutes north of Nuremberg.
Mhm.
And I said, oh yes, we took it immediately.
Okay.
So I was only 2 years in Bad Hersfeld.
Uh-huh. And you had your daughter with you?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
By the time we went back there, when we came home from Germany, she was 2, and when we went back, she was 10.
Okay.
So she pretty well grew up in the Dodge schools. She
Mhm.
graduated there and everything.
Wow. Okay, so Bamberg, how long were you there?
You know, actually, that's not quite true. I went to Strulendorf, which is actually in Bamberg, but there were 2 separate schools with different principals and different things going on there.
Mhm.
So when I went from Bad Hersfeld, I went to Strulendorf,
Mhm.
and there was only 1 first grade there for sure.
Mhm.
And we lived in Bamberg, so it was basically the same as really being there.
Sure.
And then when that school closed, I was a part of the Bamberg elementary school.
So what year did the school close in Strulenberg?
Strulendorf, yeah.
Strulendorf,
Uh-huh.
excuse me.
Well, let's see, I went back in 87, probably about 89, I think that Strulendorf would have closed.
Mhm.
And then from then on, I was in Bamberg, and I stayed there until I retired,
Okay, and
which
that
was in 2001.
so that was about 12 years you were there.
Mhm.
And first grade the whole time?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Okay.
It's so easy to keep first grade. Nobody wanted it, and it was my favorite, so.
Mhm. Sure. No competition,
No
right?
competition.
Now, tell us about your school there and interaction with the local community and your facility and that sort of thing.
Mhm. Well, I lived, well, we all did, lived in German housing. None of us lived on the base.
Mhm.
And so that made it a lot easier to meet people and
Mhm.
interact. And I made really close friends with a German lady that lived in the apartment next to me.
Mhm.
And we did many things together and are still very close friends. And I call her and write to her all the time.
Wow.
Went back to see her and others
Mhm.
this last Christmas season.
Wonderful.
So, and there are others that I go back to see, but she's especially a very close friend.
Mhm. So what kind of school facility did you have there?
Now, in Strulendorf, it was an old German orphanage.
Wow.
And they had filled in the pool in front with sand, which was our playground.
Wow.
One of the teachers taught in the chapel with the stained glass windows.
Wow.
I didn't get that one.
Oh, darn.
But huge stairway that went up to the second floor where the older grades were.
Mhm.
We just had big, lovely, old building classrooms.
Mhm.
It was nice.
And then in Bombers itself?
In Bamberg, they had a fairly new school.
Mhm.
So they had originally had everyone in Nuremberg and then built the school in Bamberg.
I see.
So it was fairly new, and they kept adding on to it, especially when they closed Strulendorf, they had added on a whole new wing into the Bamberg school. Because for a while it was way too small. They had 5th and 6th grades meeting in classes downtown Bamberg.
Oh, wow.
And the kindergarten met in army buildings somewhere else, and it was way crowded. We had 12,000, is that right? No, couldn't be. 1,200, what am I saying, 1,200 kids
Uh-huh, right.
at one point.
Wow.
And then the drawdown
That's a lot.
started,
Mhm.
and then we had extra rooms everywhere.
Oh, my. Okay, so tell us about, were you able to take your children out on field trips? Did you do things
Oh,
like
yes.
that? And your,
Yes,
okay.
all the time. In Nuremberg, we would always go to the zoo, fantastic zoo.
Mhm.
Let's see, we did lots of, I think where all we would go. In Bamberg and Nuremberg, because the Christmas markets were so important, we would always go to Christmas markets with the whole class,
Mhm.
taking the parents. I can't think of anything
Mhm.
other than just usual things that you would go, school classes would go to.
And again, they had the
Castles
local.
and churches and
Mhm. Sure. And they again have the local national teachers coming in to teach a bit of the German language and so
Oh,
on.
yes.
Mhm. Great. Okay, and you talked about traveling. Can you tell us a bit more about your travel experiences?
in Germany now, okay. well,
In Germany or going out from Germany, what kind of travel opportunities did you have by living there?
Well, the same as in Puerto Rico and Japan, we were moving all the time,
Mhm.
especially the first years. I guess towards the end, I kind of settled down. The
Mhm.
last 5 or 6 years, I didn't go a lot.
Mhm.
But we were in almost every country in Europe, and after I had done that, then we started going to Czechoslovakia and Poland and Russia, and all the ones that were a little more difficult to go to, we would go in on bus tours.
Mhm.
So and of course then we did all the regular ones, Italy and Spain and Portugal and
England.
England,
Uh-huh.
and many times to England. I
Uh-huh.
had a good friend that taught in England, so we would go there rather often.
Uh-huh. France, I suppose.
Oh, France, yes.
Did you ever
Belgium,
get out to?
Netherlands.
Mhm. Get out from the European, within the European countries, or did you basically concentrate on Europe?
Oh, no, we went to Morocco and
Uh-huh.
the Canary Islands, and I was in Tunisia and Egypt and Greece,
Uh-huh.
Cyprus, Crete. We went all the time.
Wonderful. Now, did you go with friends? Did you have tour groups that you went with?
Usually we would go with friends, other
Mhm.
teachers.
Mhm.
Unless it was one of those eastern countries that was very difficult to go in and out of at that time, we usually would take a tour
Mhm. Okay.
that was all regulated and took us right in and out easily.
Sure. Now, how did you manage going into the communist countries, say like Poland or Czechoslovakia, at that time? Because wasn't that still behind the Iron Curtain?
Well, if you could get on one of those tours, they had some way they worked around that with special permission with your passport, and you could go.
Mhm. Okay. So what sort of travel did you, or what countries did you find the most intriguing or unusual in terms of your travel?
Oh, my goodness. I think probably when people ask me my very favorite place, it probably was Hong Kong. I loved Hong Kong.
Okay.
But in Europe, I think I like Germany the best of all. They just were very nice and very friendly, and always would help you get places and do things, and it's so much more like the way we live here, I believe. I loved Germany.
Mhm. Great. And how about your daughter?
She had a very good experience
Mhm.
in the overseas schools.
Mhm.
As most teenagers, she hit one point where she said, "Mother, I will not look at another church. I will not look at another castle." But now she would like to go back and look at some of them. It just was every weekend we were off doing some other thing somewhere, and she just had enough of it at one point.
Sure.
So,
Now, what age is she now?
29.
Wow, okay. Now, I think you brought some treasures from Germany. Maybe you'd like to tell us about those.
Oh, I probably have more treasures from Germany than anywhere, since I spent 24 years in Germany.
Wow.
And this box right here is from the Nuremberg Christkindlesmarkt. And every year they have a different one, different picture and different one, which holds Lebkuchen, which is the German cookie kind of thing, cake cookie. I'm not terribly fond of the Lebkuchen, but for a long time, my husband's parents would send us a box of Lebkuchen every Christmas, and I kept the boxes.
Certainly, those are treasures. Now, that's, is that a ginger,
Sort of like a
sort of
ginger snap
Yeah.
kind of thing, only softer.
Great. And some other German things
Well,
here.
one of the things that I loved to do in Germany was Volksmarch, which is just going for a 10-kilometer walk every weekend. And they would be organized in different areas, and for 6 marks you would pay, at the end you would get a mug.
Mhm.
And this, I brought this one just as an example. They were all different ones, and I have many of them.
Mhm.
But this one represents the end of the Berlin Wall.
Wow.
And so, and that was very, very important to us at the time when the wall went down and we could go in and out freely to the eastern side.
Tell us the year.
1989.
89.
Thank goodness it was written on there, okay? And along with that, as soon as they would allow us to drive across, we went immediately to Hof, which is right on the border, and went across and looked around. And as we were going across, there were people just out everywhere. And some guy was there, and he had pieces of the fence that they were ripping down that was separating the east and west side. And he told us that this fence was built so that you couldn't even get a finger hold in it to climb and get across, so that how they were keeping the people on the eastern side. And even though it's just a relic of no value, I like it a lot.
Of course, that's a real treasure.
Let's see, when I went to Bad Hersfeld, the first place I went, or the second place in Germany, this is just a candle, and on the back of it has the castle, where we went a lot while we were there. And it was in the old town, and many nice restaurants and different things there, so we spent a lot of time in that area. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, I have a huge collection of Hummel figurines. These two were the first ones that I bought very soon after I got there, and I paid $7 a piece for them.
Oh, wow.
I have seen them, well, last time, when I left Germany, they were going for about $75 a piece over there, and probably more here. But anyway, I have quite a collection of those.
You have larger ones, or are they maybe
I do
small?
have some that are larger, not really large. And one of my retirement gifts was the little girl sitting reading the book, which I had taught first grade for all those many, many years. So that's a treasure. I have been an enormous Elvis fan all of my life, and this is a jug from a Folks March, which I did not go on, but I found this in a shop, and it says Maneuver in Grafenwehr, 1959, which he was there. Okay, so I got that in a shop, but anyway. Let's see what else. Oh, this is one of my great treasures, which is of no value either, but one time I was at my in-laws' house, and they had German soldiers, Nazi German soldiers, come to their home during the wartime and eat there. They had to feed them, I guess, was the plan. Not that they wanted to.
Right.
And they left this fork, which has the eagle here, like the Nazi symbol, and she gave me this fork.
That is amazing. What's about?
Well, the bracelet that I had from Puerto Rico, I also made one for Europe, and I have on there from different countries in Europe. For instance, I have the beer mug from Germany and a little carriage from England, and let's see what else we have here. That's the little Swiss cottage. Different things from different countries. The Egyptian symbol there, and the Nuremberg wedding cup. Different things from the European tour. And as you can see, I collected a lot of little jewelry things each place because they're small and easy to take along.
Right.
Another thing that I did in Europe was a coin collection, and then I would take the coins to a guy who would cut them out, and then they were gold dipped. And this is an old German coin during the Nazi time with the Nazi symbol on it. And sometimes I hesitate to wear that one around here, but anyway, I am happy to have that one. And I have them from all different countries and several different ones from Germany and different places that I was. So that's just another kind of a reminder of things that I had.
Again, a small kind of souvenir too that you can transport easily.
Yes.
Right.
I think the only other thing was this, which I bought on the street in Budapest, and this is amber. They were just cutting it and putting it on a string, and that was kind of fun.
Wow, it's really light, isn't it? Oh, nice. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing with us those things. Can you think of anything else that you really are burning to say about your overseas experience with the schools, with traveling, that sort of thing? We always think of something after the interview is over.
Oh, I don't know. I guess probably some of the funniest things happened in Japan because my friend and I were really tall and really blonde. And there were very interesting little things. I had a moped, and we would scoot around all over on that southern island especially. And we came to the top of this little hill, got off to start to look around, and they were doing a modeling thing with photographers taking pictures of models up on this thing. And it was so strange for them to see these two blonde giants that they just turned the cameras and took pictures of us until we got on the motorcycle and went away. And just one other experience in Japan, we were in a department store and my friend was off, and I just kind of leaned back against a pole to wait for her to come back. And this little guy comes around the pillar there and he looks at me and he went, it was like I scared him to death, you know, he couldn't get to the top. They all were, and on the trains, I could just look out over everyone and see everything. That was kind of a fun experience, I think.
For sure. Interesting. Great. Well, you've shared some really wonderful experiences with us. This has been great. Now, I do need to ask you what you're doing now and what you see for your future.
When I came back to Wichita, I decided that I would probably get on the substitute list so that I could meet people and kind of get into the system. And it took me maybe 3 or 4 months to get all that paperwork and stuff settled. And then I went 7 times and I said, No, I don't think so. It just wasn't fun. So then I started finding other things to do, and I love to sew, and I work at Hancock's Fabrics part-time because I told everyone as soon as I retired I was just going to go and touch fabric.
All right.
So I work there about 12 hours a week, and go to quilt guilds and
Your
theater. I love the theater. Wichita has very, very good theater for a smallish town like it is. So every week I go to theater.
Wonderful.
Not movies.
Okay,
Theater.
right, got that, all right. And so you see yourself sticking around Wichita?
Yes, because my sister and my daughter both live here, so I will probably be here.
Grandchildren?
No, she's not married. So.
All right, okay. And what sort of field is your daughter in?
She works at Emprise Bank in the loan department. It's a fairly new job for her, and she likes it very much.
Wonderful. Well, Myrna, thank you very much for being with us today, for allowing us to share your stories with you, and we really appreciate your coming.
Okay, thank you for letting me talk about all this.